Cyberpunk 2077 is a world set only 53 years into the future, where corporations have taken over, robotic body modifications have become the norm, and the human mind has been downloaded onto a chip. But how close are we to that future in real life? Are the corporations becoming superpowers who can control a whole city? When will we see people walking around with crazy body modifications? And how close are we to uploading our minds onto a chip? One of the main corporations in Cyberpunk 2077, the Arasaka Corporation, is perhaps the most influential in Night City and across the world of Cyberpunk. They are a worldwide megacorporation and maintain the largest and most powerful armed forces of any corporation in the world. Due to this, they have developed a dark reputation as a corporation that is to be scared of, and one which uses lawyers and even assassins to cover its tracks. This story of Arasaka is fictional, of course, but in real life, companies have been using dirty tactics for centuries to gain an advantage, and this future of megacorporations may be closer than you think. We don't have to go that far back to a time when a corporation ruled a whole country. I am talking about the East India Trading Company, a private enterprise set up by the United Kingdom in 1600, and who increasingly became more and more autonomous, eventually getting to a point where they were the rulers of India. They had their own armed forces with about 260,000 soldiers, twice the size of the British Army at that time, much like we see in Cyberpunk with Arasaka. Since then, we haven't seen a company rise to have that much control over a country, and even its own private army. However, companies in modern times use their money and power in much more subtle ways. There is a side quest in Cyberpunk where a politician by the name of Jefferson Perales is trying to become mayor. It is found out that him and his wife were being watched and drugged by a shadowy organisation who's manipulating their brains to their benefit. Now, although that story is based in fiction, the truth of corporations manipulating people in power to their own benefit is nothing new in real life. Corporations have been contributing to political campaigns for centuries. They back the person who they think will benefit them the most, and try and persuade them to pass legislation that benefits their own company and interests more than the people. I mean, corporations by definition only exist to produce profit for their shareholders and to see their stock price rise. An example of this happening is the milk money scandal. In December of 1973, a man called John Connolly was a rising star in Washington. He was President Nixon's Treasury Secretary and a presidential hopeful for 1976. However, several months later, a federal grand jury indicted Connolly on charges of perjury and conspiracy to obstruct justice. They state that the American milk producers bribed Connolly with $10,000 to persuade Nixon to pump up milk prices, which in 1970 the administration did. They raised milk prices by 75% and imposed import quotas on ice cream and 3 other dairy products. An attorney for the American milk produce wrote to Nixon stating that the farmers had been in touch with the financial men to set up appropriate channels to contribute $2 million for your re-election. Now, even though Connolly wasn't ever jailed for this crime and was acquitted, it is just another example of how corporations use politicians to their benefit. This is an example which was discovered and became known to the public, but how many other examples are out there of companies bribing politicians to gain an advantage? Corporations have such a hold on the people and politicians that they can even get away with paying low wages. They are free to pollute the air and water, with most households living paycheck to paycheck, and the wealth almost entirely in the hands of the top 1%. These are all examples of the world we live in today, but it does sound very similar to the world of Cyberpunk 2077, a world which we aren't that far from. The customization you can do to your body in Cyberpunk is very impressive, and sometimes very strange. You can change any part of your body, whether it be for vanity looks, or to give yourself an edge over everyone else by making physical improvements. You can have sword for arms, stronger skin that acts like armor, enhanced eyes, bionic lungs, the list goes on. But how close are we to that future now? Advancement in human body modification has grown rapidly, from the first body modification of a simple tattoo in ancient Egypt to African tribes using objects to alter the shape of their body. Body modification had been going on for centuries. It wasn't really until the 20th century where we saw real technological advancements. The first human organ, the kidney, was successfully transplanted in 1954, and from there the demand for transplants grew. Now, this advancement of body modifications to help people is a good thing. People who had issues with organs or loss of limbs were able to get a transplant or a replacement limb fitted through prosthetics created. To date, most robotic-powered prosthetics are in early stages of development and can only perform the most basic of tasks. However, scientists are looking at more advanced prototypes which could enable the patient to regain their motor capabilities and even restore sensory feedback. Most of these being trialled are even mind-controlled devices, which can only be a benefit to the person. Most medical prosthetics and implanted devices are used reactively, to restore a level of regular function rather than enhancing a body to superhuman levels. But how long will it be before it becomes a regular thing for humans to replace their limbs for enhanced ones? Once the technology had reached a point where these devices and prosthetics are better than a human limb, I don't think it will be long before a gap in the market appears for these enhanced limbs, ones which companies will begin to sell as an alternative to the human limb. Now, whilst enhanced body modifications seem a lot closer than originally thought, the Cyberpunk 2077 future is looking more and more likely. But one thing that may come a lot sooner than we think is the main storyline in Cyberpunk 2077. The main storyline in Cyberpunk 2077 focuses on technology known as the Relic, a biochip which allows the storage and reading of digitalized human psyches, known as engrams. It was aimed to be able to install and activate an engram in a new organic body. Basically, it meant that a person who copied their mind onto the relic and then died could be restored to life in a new body using the chip, granting them immortality. This idea of downloading your conscious onto a chip is nothing new, and isn't limited to Cyberpunk 2077. Science fiction authors and scientists alike have mentioned the idea many times, but it is only now with the technology we have today where this idea could become a reality. The idea of downloading someone's consciousness onto a chip is known as mind uploading, where a brain scan is used to completely emulate the mental state of the individual in a digital computer. There has been research into neuroscience and computer science, and with the development of faster supercomputers, virtual reality, and brain-computer interfaces, this research is gaining pace. To upload a mind onto a computer or a chip, there are essentially two options open to us now. Firstly, copy and upload, where you would scan and map your brain and then store and copy that information into a computer system. And secondly, copy and delete, by gradual replacement of the neurons until the original organic brain no longer exists, and a computer program emulating the brain takes over the body. There are people today who support this idea, and say that many of the tools and ideas needed to achieve this already exist. A prime example of a supporter of this is Elon Musk, who when asked in an interview about this subject said, "I think it is possible. We could download the things that we believe make ourselves unique." Now, of course, if you're not in that body anymore, that is definitely going to be a difference. But as far as preserving our memories, our personality, I think we could do that. Even a professor in psychology and neuroscience, Michael A. Granziano, has said that it could be possible in the future, and to upload a mind it would require two pieces of technology: an artificial brain and a scan of a person's brain that could measure exactly how its neurons are connected to each other, to be able to copy that pattern in the artificial brain. Creating the brain would be the easy part. The hard part is the scanning and uploading of the brain. When scanning a brain, the amount of detail needed would be enormous, and it would be difficult to not harm the subject in the process. That technology doesn't yet exist. The most wildly optimistic predictions place mind uploading within a few decades, but I wouldn't be surprised if it took centuries. Elon Musk is even one of the pioneers in this technology, with the founding of his company called Neuralink, which is working to create a generalized brain interface to restore autonomy to those with unmet medical needs today and unlock human potential tomorrow. Musk even says that there could be a day which allows people to store their memories as a backup and then restore lost memories. But as mentioned in the mission statement, that isn't its goal now. The short-term goal is solving brain injuries and spinal injuries. So for many years, Neuralink's products will just be helpful to someone who has lost the use of their arms or legs, or has a traumatic brain injury. The first human trial even happened not that long ago, in January of this year, which Neuralink reported as a success. Once Neuralink has passed the trials and began mass producing their product to the public, it won't be long before the company will look to create a commercial product, one which allows humans to wisely connect their brains with phones and other devices. With corporations gaining more power and wealth, advancements in technology and body modifications, and mind uploading all point towards a future that is looking more and more like Cyberpunk 2077. And I don't think it will be long before we see this future. But is this the future that we want to live in? Is Cyberpunk a warning to us which we are not listening to? And is it something we should be excited for, or should we be afraid?